that is acidic. And if H plus 1 are less, that is, why does that happen? Because you added a base to it. So you've got acidic conditions, you've got basic conditions, and you've got neutral conditions. So we did the formula of acids. Kya acids the? Acids produce H plus 1 ions, which is why they have H plus 1 ions. That's why they produce H plus 1 ions. So attach H plus 1 to any negative ion, that's an acid. With Cl ion, that's HCl. With a nitrate, that's nitric acid. With a sulfate, that's sulfuric acid. With phosphate, that's phosphoric acid. Carbonate is carbonic, and so on. So you can, and you have to remember all of these acids by heart. If they tell you what carbonic acid is, that's H plus 1 combined with CO3 minus 2. Do crisscross, it's going to be H2CO3. H plus 1 with PO4 minus 3. So this 3 over here, H3PO4. And then you had bases. Bases were, kya bases? You had oxides, you had hydroxides, and you had carbonates. Bases were mostly negative ions. They would attract H plus 1. If you put them in water, they will attract H plus 1. H plus 1 will get attracted to a negative ion. So hydroxides, carbonates, they're all oxides, hydroxides, carbonates, they're all bases. These are the common bases. It could be any negative ion. Even a Cl negative ion could act as a base. So these are some of the examples of bases. Oxides, sodium oxide, that's a base because it's got an oxide in it. Sodium hydroxide, remember, a negative ion will not exist alone. It will have a positive ion next to it. So hydroxide, all of these have hydroxide. So hydroxide will accept H plus 1 ions. Carbonates, all of these compounds, they have carbonate in them. So that will be basic as well. So moving on, we did the first equation. So we were just practicing equations. The first equation was that it's an acid-base reaction. It produces salt plus H2O. So what happens is that you have an acid like nitric acid and you have a base, which is like potassium hydroxide. The OH ions and the H plus 1, they combine and they form water, and whatever is left, that's your salt. K and NO3, right? That's K plus 1 and NO3 minus 1. Phosphoric acid and magnesium hydroxide, that's this is the acid, it's called H. This one has OH. These two will combine to form water, and whatever is left, that's your base. Okay, so we did one of this question, then we did questions related to, we did the metal, last time we did the metal plus acid reaction. Iske andar tha ke, Uraish, this is not a specific topic. This is one of the most, I mean, we're doing moles and stoichiometry, right? And equations. Ye jo part hai na, this is related to acid bases salts as well. The thing is, we're learning how to construct equations separately. Okay? So we're not specifically doing a certain topic. What we're doing is, we're learning how to make formulas and equations. Most of these equations are related to acids and bases. But we'll be using, remember, for chemistry, the most fundamental thing is equations. So which is why the first thing that we are focusing on is to learn how to construct most of the common equations. ठीक है, तो वो 28 July से onwards, make sure you watch all the recordings. ठीक है?
Okay, sir.
अच्छा, so all of this, I mean, all of the notes that are written over here, one by one, we went through all of this in a lot more detail, right? अच्छा, so what I'm going to do is थोड़ा सा पहले practice कर लेते हैं. I told you to make these equations. ठीक है? This was an assignment that's given to you, so I'll just initially try and do some of the equations. So these were carbonate plus acid reactions, right? So carbonate plus acid reactions were, this is what happens when you have a carbonate. So the first equation, I'm trying to do the first equation. That's number 1. Aluminium carbonate. So I need to figure out what aluminium carbonate is. So aluminium is group 3. So uska kya matlab hai? Uska matlab hai it's got a +3 charge on it, right? It's Al and it's got a charge of group 3. Remember, anything group 3, that's 28 was the first one on formulas and equation. ठीक है? वो मैं explain कर देता हूँ. I'll talk to you in the group. Before that, we did atomic structure, we did ionic compounds. So I'll share the lectures for that as well. लेकिन जो formulas है ना, where we learned how all of this. अच्छा, carbonate is -2, right? It's given in the table above. You have to remember this. When you do crisscross, the formula of aluminum carbonate will be Al will be 2 and carbonate will be 3. Okay, so there's 3 over here, 2 over here. So this is the formula of aluminum carbonate. What is the formula of hydrochloric acid? That's HCl. Okay, you have to remember this as well. Okay, that's hydrochloric acid. So what did I tell you? When you have a carbonate and an acid reaction, you've got a carbonate clearly and you've got an acid. What happens? Okay, salt, water, and carbon dioxide is produced. Okay, so salt and water and carbon dioxide. Okay, these are produced. And we have to figure out what the salt is. So what did I tell you? I told you, okay, remember this. I mean, just make it simple that the okay, the carbonate changes to carbon. I mean, the H and the CO3, they combine and they form water and carbon dioxide, right? Whatever is left is your salt. So Al and Cl. Okay, you've got
aluminum chloride.
Okay, exactly, aluminum chloride. So Al and Cl, that's what's left. So that is going to be your salt. Al and Cl. But remember, do crisscross again. Al is group 3, so that's +3. Cl is group 7. Group 7 has a charge of -1, so it's going to be Al and Cl 3. AlCl3. That's your salt. So let's do the second reaction. If all these reactions would be exactly the same, the only thing you have to identify is if it's a carbonate plus acid reaction, water and carbon dioxide are going to be produced. And you can, whatever is left, that's your salt. So let's do the second one. As a second one here, that's number 2, that's potassium carbonate. So what is potassium carbonate? Potassium is group 1. So +1. Carbonate is CO3 with a charge of -2. So what is potassium carbonate? If you do crisscross, it's going to be K2CO3. Okay, that's potassium carbonate. And it's reacting with phosphoric acid. That's what is phosphoric acid? That is H3PO4. So what is going to get produced? Water, because it's an acid and a carbonate reaction. So water will be produced. So I'm going to write down water anyways, and carbon dioxide is going to be produced. So that means the H from the acid and the carbonate, they ended up forming water and carbon dioxide. What is left? The K and the K and PO4 are left. So it's going to be K and PO4, right? But you have to do crisscross. PO4, what is the charge on PO4? That's -3. K is group 1, that's +1. So it's going to be K3. It's going to be K3PO4. That is the salt that is produced. So, or the third one, strontium carbonate. So let's do that quickly. Number 3. SR, if you look at the pure table, that's group 2. Group 2 is +2. Strontium carbonate. Carbonate is -2. I say, in this case, you don't have to do crisscross. It's this will be 2 and this will be 2. But I told you that the ratio has to be the simplest ratio. So 2:2 will actually turn into 1:1. So you don't really have to do crisscross. This is the reaction. It's with hydrochloric acid again. So it's hydrochloric acid is HCl. What will be produced? So what will be produced? The CO3 and the H will turn into water and carbon dioxide. So it's going to produce water plus carbon dioxide. And what's left? The SR and the Cl are left. So that is your salt. So it's going to be SR and Cl. SR is group 2, so that's +2. Cl is group 7, so that is -1. So the formula will be SrCl2. But ये 1 होगा, ये 2 होगा, ठीक है? You don't usually write 1, ठीक है? That's why I don't mention 1. ये reaction clear? Is this clear? carbonate plus acid produces salt, water, and carbon dioxide. Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
और भी कर लेते हैं. So number 4. ठीक है, we'll move to the fourth equation. Let's do number 4. That's number 4 is iron 3 carbonate. Iron 3 means that Fe has a charge of 3 plus. Remember, transition metals, their charge is given. I mean, you can't really tell the charge, so it is always mentioned in the formula. Iron 3, that means iron is 3 plus. Carbonate, that is 2 minus. So you're going to do crisscross. It's going to be Fe2, and that's the formula, CO3 thrice plus what acid? Nitric acid. What is nitric acid? That's HNO3. Okay, that's what nitric acid is. And so again, it's a carbonate plus acid reaction. The carbonate and the acid H will combine and they will form water and so they're going to form water and carbon dioxide. पीछे क्या रह गया? That's what's left. It's Fe and NO3, right? So that is what is left. Fe and NO3. And NO3 is -1, Fe is 3 plus. So the formula will be NO3 will be thrice and Fe will be 1. Okay, no need to mention 1. वैसी 1 है. So it's going to be FeNO3. It's iron nitrate. Okay, that's the salt that will be produced. Achha, but the key is you have to memorize the ये वाला part. Just hold on a second. Board hang हो गया. नहीं ठीक है, it's working. अच्छा, so the key is remember the names of the acids and their formulas and the ions that make them up. Like nitrous acid, that's H plus 1 and NO2 minus 1. Sulfuric acid, it's made when H plus 1 combines with SO4 minus 2. Crisscross, it becomes H2SO4. Okay, so you've got to remember this. And the other thing that you have to remember is wo jo पिछला table, it's this one. The names of these polyatomic ions, they have to be on your fingertips. Okay, so it's hydroxide OH minus 1 nitrate, sulfate, carbonate. Okay, we're doing carbonate reactions, so you must remember this. So I'm going to start the fourth equation now. Okay, we're done with 3 equations. So we're going to learn how to write, and the fourth equation would be kind of similar. Okay. So this equation, the fourth reaction. The reaction number 4, that's I said this one is an ammonium salt, okay, reacting with, so that's going to be reacting with a metal oxide or a hydroxide. You mute कर लो mic. So reacting with metal oxide plus hydroxide. And it's going to end up forming a salt, water, and ammonia. Okay, so it will react and it will produce salt plus water plus. Now ammonia is NH3. Okay, this is ammonia. I'll just give you a brief idea about ammonia. Ammonia is like if you've ever been to the lab, ammonia is this really extremely pungent smelling gas. It's got a very sharp smell. It's like onions. Well, it's even like onions make you cry. I mean, it has a very burning sensation. It's got a very pungent smell as well, a very sharp, extremely sharp smell. That is what ammonia. It's often used in tear gas as well. So that is, I mean, and make sure you smell. I mean, it's not poisonous, so you can go in the lab and smell it. Okay, it's present in almost every lab. But coming back to this, remember the formula of ammonia. What's an ammonium salt? An ammonium salt is, what is ammonium? That's the first thing. So if you look at the table, ठीक है, उसको वैसे ही मैं टेबल को ले आता हूँ. So if you just go and have a look at the original table, that's where the ions were. ठीक है, this one. You would notice that there's an ion called ammonium. That's NH4 and it's got a charge of +1. It's one N with 4 H's and it's the whole thing has a charge of +1. ठीक है, that's what ammonium is. तो यहाँ पे ना it says ammonium salt, right? So an ammonium salt is any ammonium compound really. It's ammonium and there must be some negative ion attached to it. It could be any negative ion. It could be a carbonate or phosphate, a chloride, any negative ion. So what's a metal oxide or hydroxide? What's an oxide? Oxide is oxygen with a -2 charge. What's a hydroxide? That's OH with a charge of -1. So they're going to have some metal positive ion attached to them. So the metal will be the positive ion. So let's try and make this reaction. So ammonium salt, ammonium compound. Let's take ammonium chloride. Ammonium is +1. Chlorine is group 7, so that is -1. Okay, so hopefully that's clear. It's going to be, so this is an ammonium compound because it's got ammonium in it and it's got there's some negative ion that's attached to it. Okay, so that's ammonium chloride. ऊपर से वो +1 or -1 है, so that's there's no crisscross. You just get 1 if you do crisscross. There's one ammonium and there's one Cl. So writing 1 is kind of pointless. Okay, so you don't. I mean, even without writing 1, there's just 1, right? I'm going to react it with sodium hydroxide. That's Na and OH. So that's Na +1 and OH -1. So that's a metal hydroxide and that's your ammonium compound. So what did I tell you? What will be produced? Salt, water, ammonia. So I'll produce. So what I'll do is let's produce the water and ammonia and figure out what's left. That's your salt. So we've got water and ammonia. So what happens is the OH changes to water and the ammonium ion changes to ammonia. So what is left? That's NaN. It's NaNCl, right? Na +1 and Cl -1. That's what's left. Clear? So it's being made in exactly the same way. The OH changes to water, the NH4 changes to NH3. So what is left is just NaCl. That's the third product. That's your salt. Okay, clear?
Yes, sir.
So I'll do a couple of more reactions. So another ammonium compound. Let's do ammonium sulfate. But let me write the names first. So here's a question. So any compound that pretty much has ammonium in it, it's ammonium sulfate, right? So that's an ammonium compound and it should be reacting with an oxide or a hydroxide. So let's say calcium hydroxide. So we've got calcium hydroxide. As the reaction, we have to figure this out. Ammonium sulfate will be NH4 and that's +1 and sulfate is SO4 and it's -2. Now, if I do crisscross, this is -2. So that means NH4 will be twice, right? Or SO4 एक ही होगा. It's 1. It's got 1 over here. So there's no point writing brackets and putting 1. Okay, so that's ammonium sulfate. What about calcium hydroxide? So calcium is group 2. So that is group 2 is +2. Or hydroxide is Soheb, वो शोर आ रहा है. अच्छा, so OH is -1, right? So do crisscross, it's going to be Ca and OH twice, right? So that's you figured out the formula. So what will be produced? So what will be produced is the OH will turn to water. This will turn into ammonia, right? So you'll get water and. So you're going to get water and you're going to get, so you're also going to get ammonia. So you're also going to get ammonia. So पीछे क्या रहेगा? If the OH turns to water, the ammonium turns to ammonia. So what is left? That's calcium and SO4. So calcium and SO4, that's what's left. And it's just going to be CaSO4 because even if you do crisscross, it's ये 2 हो जाएंगे और ये भी 2 हो जाएगा. The 2 will get cancelled out. It has to be the simplest ratio. So that is the equation. अच्छा, let's.
सर
हाँ,
ये COOH, ये OH के साथ ब्रैकेट्स क्यों लगे हैं?
इसके साथ
जी
ये तो पता है 2 लगना है इसके साथ, ये पता है. अब क्रिस क्रॉस तो पता है ना सोएब?
जी सर, क्रिस क्रॉस पर ब्रैकेट्स क्यों लगाया? वैसे क्यों नहीं लगाया जाता?
हाँ, वैसे क्यों लगाया? The reason, मैंने कहा था, remember whenever you have a polyatomic ion you have to put brackets, ठीक है? And the reason for that is कि अगर मैं नहीं लगाता, let's, सारी उड़ गया, एक सेकेंड, अगर मैं नहीं लगाता तो वो लग रहा है जिस तरह सिर्फ एज के साथ 2 है. OH ends twice है ना, मतलब why do we do criss cross, ठीक है? उसकी मतलब पूरे OH ends twice है. So मैं थोड़ा सा criss cross की डिटेल में चला जाता हूँ. Why do we need brackets, right? Calcium is 2 plus. That means how many electrons did it lose? That means it lost 2 electrons, right? Clear है? 2 plus का मतलब it's losing 2 electrons, right? Now
Yes,
the
sir.
OH is 1 minus, right? So 1 minus का क्या मतलब है? It's gaining just how many electrons? 1.
Mhm.
1 minus का मतलब it gains 1 electron, right? So there's another OH ion, right? And that gains the other electron. So calcium loses 2 electrons, right? So the OH ion gains only 1 electron. So which is why you should have 2 OH ions, right, in the formula. You know, clear enough? So it's going to be Ca and OH. अच्छा नूर,
Okay, sir. Mhm.
ठीक है. नूर 7:30. It's going to end in 10 minutes, ठीक है? ये मुझे बता देना क्लैश का, ठीक है? I'll sort this out. अच्छा, so the point is, I mean, you just do crisscross. You don't actually do all this working. You just उन दोनों को बस उठा के ना. The hack is, I mean, it's a small hack. Just bring the 2 over here, 1 over here. But the thing is, the whole entire OH is twice. There are 2 OH ions, right? So you put a bracket around OH ions, और फिर उसको twice. Right? वो फिर आ गई है notation. Just a second. Let me disable it. One second. बस ठीक है. Achha, so that is why we do crisscross, and around a polyatomic ion we always write a bracket because we want कि अगर NH4 ions twice होंगे ना, so we'll put a bracket around it. We'll say that it's twice. The whole NH4, ठीक है? There are 2 of them, right? That is what that means.
Okay, sir.
So coming back to, इसको मिटा दें, इसको नीचे ले जाते हैं. The second, let's try and make another equation. Another ammonium compound. Let's say ammonium is a positive ion. Attach it to any negative ion. So let's say ammonium phosphate. So ammonium phosphate plus potassium hydroxide. So ammonium phosphate plus potassium hydroxide. Now ammonium is NH4 plus 1, or phosphate here, that's PO4 minus 3. So what is the formula? That's NH4, and it's going to be thrice. Okay. Actually, remember, I mean, this is making equations is the most important thing in the entire chemistry. It's like it's very fundamental to everything. It's so make sure you practice. वो worksheet करो वो जो भेजी हुई है, ठीक है? Everyone complete this. I'll check it today. So ammonium phosphate, it's a NH4 plus 1. What is potassium hydroxide? That is So that is potassium is K. Group 1, that's +1. Hydroxide is OH and it's -1. Okay, so it's going to be KOH, right? You don't have to do anything, and we'll try and figure out what the product is. This case where the ammonium will turn to ammonia and the OH will turn to water, so you'll get water and ammonia. And what will be the salt that will be produced? What's left? Kn. So what is left is K and PO4. And PO4 is -3 and K is +1. So the formula will be K3PO4. Okay, that's the formula of the salt. Or as if we just made 2 equations, let's make a third one. So let's try ammonium sulfate, ammonium nitrate. Let's do ammonium nitrate. And let's react it with sulfuric acid. Okay, let's react it with sulfuric acid. So ammonium NH4 1+, nitrate 1-. So no point doing crisscross. It's just 1 and 1. ये भी 1 होगा, ये भी 1 होगा. ठीक है. अच्छा, make sure don't change the ion. NH4 is NH4, right? You can't change it. You have to put a bracket. और फिर 1 लगेगा, and you have to put a bracket. So the bracket indicate the 1. I mean, there's no point writing the 1. So just make sure when you do crisscross, never change the ions. Put a bracket around it. अगर इसको double करना है, there are 2 NH4s. Put a bracket around it and then write 2. Don't make it NH8. ठीक है? It's not 8. It just means कि NH4 के 2 ions है. ठीक है? So it's still NH4, but there are 2 of them. So you have to keep NH4 as NH4, and you have to put a bracket around it, ठीक है? And then you have to say कि इसके 3 है या 2 है, whatever the crisscross suggests. अच्छा, what's sulfuric acid? That's H2SO4. अच्छा, again, what will happen? They're going to react, and when they react, the SO4, H and NH4, it changes into water and ammonia, right? So they end up forming water plus NH3. ठीक है, the NH4 changes to. Sorry, गलत कर दिया. It's not. I mean, it was with a hydroxide, not with. ये गलत कर दिया. It's not with sulfuric acid. The ammonium reaction is with a hydroxide. ठीक है, it's not. So let me take barium hydroxide. This reaction does not involve an acid. So barium is group 2, that's +2. Hydroxide is OH with a charge of 1-. So it's Ba and OH twice. The OH, so the OH changes to water and the NH4 changes to NH3. पीछे का रह गया, that's barium and NO3, that's the salt. So it's Ba +2 and NO3 -1, and it's going to be Ba and NO3 twice, right? That is what our salt is going to be in this case. So ये barium nitrate होगा, और ठीक है, so it's. Anyways, it's going to be barium nitrate. So remember, every time when you have a reaction with an oxide or a hydroxide, the NH4 changes to NH3 the OH changes to water, and whatever ions are left, that's your salt. So in ammonium compound, a positive ion attached to some negative ion, right? It could be any negative ion, and it's reacting with a metal oxide or a hydroxide. So a positive ion attached to a hydroxide, any metal oxide or hydroxide, it will result in this equation. Okay, so that's a fourth equation that we have done. So फिर से go through कर रहा हूँ. Okay, all these reactions are kind of very similar, ठीक है, except that you have to identify what are the products that are getting formed. Carbonate का reaction होगा ना, if you have a carbonate reacting with an acid, the H changes to the H and CO3, they change into water and carbon dioxide. Whatever is left, that's your salt. ठीक है, carbonate changes to carbon dioxide, the H changes to water, and whatever is left, K and PO4, that's your salt. Carbonate goes to carbon dioxide, H changes to water, and Cl and Sr are left. That's your salt. उससे पिछले reactions थे वो भी इसी तरह थे कि you had metal plus acid produces salt plus H2. So metal plus acid produces, it's kind of simple that the H changes to H2, whatever is left, that's your salt. Aluminium, the H changes to H2, and Al and SO4 are left. You just do crisscross and you figure out the formula of aluminium sulfate. और वो यहाँ पे क्या था, और उससे पिछला था, that was also kind of a similar reaction, oxide hydroxide with an acid. HOH, they change into water, and Al and NO3 are left, that's your salt. ठीक है, so we're done with 4 reactions now, ठीक है, इसको भी highlight कर लें. This is reaction number 3. And this is reaction number. As a reason it's important is chemistry is all about formulas and compounds. कोई आपसे कहेगा ना, what is calcium sulfate? You should know that. If you have a periodic table with you, should know that sulfate is SO4 minus 2. You should know that calcium is in group 2, so it must be plus 2. Okay, what is calcium hydroxide? What is, all these compounds and the names and the formulas and also their equations. You have to be really strong in this, okay? And the only way you can get strong in this is if you practice a lot. Okay, ये जो equations बनी हुई है ना, all these equations in this on this board over here. इसका link मैंने share भी किया, I'll share it again. Make sure you practice them over and over again. That's the only way you'll be able to memorize. Auto पे हो जाएगा फिर. Okay, when you hear the term ammonium, you know it's NH4 with a charge of +1. When they say that ammonium gas is being produced, you should know it's NH3. Okay? So the more you practice, any equations go bar rub off, okay, just practice them again. Okay? So I'll post more questions now. बल्कि मैं थोड़ी देर बाद कर दूंगा post over the weekend. Okay? Make sure you go through as many these 4 equations. Remember, we're done with 4 equations. And you have to be really good with these 4 equations. Like really good. क्योंकि इससे आगे जो चीजें होंगी ना, they would be slightly, they'll be related to equations and acid basis salts, but they'll be more stuff to remember as well. So just make sure कि ये वाला जो board है ना, at least make sure you go through this, और मैं questions देता रहूंगा, ठीक है? तो ये clear है, इस पे कोई question तो नहीं है इस पे? और जो नए आए हुए ना उनका there's just 4 or 5 video lectures, go through them. We can have an extra class on this, ठीक है, sometime. और ये practice करनी है, ठीक है? Next thing will be slightly more difficult. चलिए ठीक है, okay everyone. Take care, Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz, sir.
राइश में सेंड करो, ठीक है, मैं कर देता हूँ.